if you're living in a 3-bedroom, you've got pets, you're probably paying about $7 to $7.50 a week rent. The average property selling is 1.166 roughly. If you were to get a mortgage on that, how much would you be saying?
So if you're borrowing, say, 80-ish% of that.
Hi, I'm Mehran.
I'm Glenn Stanley.
And we're just here, 21 days, just considering the OCR and also giving you a marketing update for the month of June coming forward.
Goodness me, the years. Where's the year going?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Crazy.
What's the OCR done?
It stayed the same.
Stayed the same.
Much to pretty much everyone's, as expected, the OCR, no movement. Things are still slowly tracking in the right direction. We do believe that, well, Adrian Orr, the Reserve Bank, does believe that inflation will be within the target band of 1 to 3% before the end of 2024.
Yeah.
But it's not quite there yet, and accordingly, we're going to keep interest rates as they are just for a little bit longer.
Okay.
We'll see again in 6 weeks, I guess.
Looking at all the stats, particularly Tony Alexander's review that he does on a survey, it looks like people aren't spending on anything.
Not at all.
No retail, no going out for meals, anything that they would have bought through lockdown period, they don't need. So basically, the only thing that's looking as if people are still spending on is going on international travel.
Overseas, isn't it? Yeah. It's
That's an interesting one.
It is very interesting, and we spoke a little bit earlier around a potential connection or correlation between us spending on international travel and the net migration loss from New Zealand, presumably in favour of Australia.
Yep.
But sure.
You're quite right there. When you look at, I think the previous video we did, we'd seen a net increase, biggest increase that we had in migration, and now we've got the biggest increase in exodus.
So
absolutely. What we've gained, we've almost lost that amount.
Yes.
I think we're about 10, 11,000 people short of losing that amount. So that's really going to carry on affecting businesses going forward.
Well, that's a really good point, Mehran. I think that it's worth noting that our lack of spending, us not going out and buying things at retail, has a far greater impact than we realise. Things like GST on those goods that we're not buying. Things like staff who aren't required to man the shop, which we're not spending money in anymore. Unemployment is a real head scratcher right now for the Reserve Bank in their considerations of what to do with the cash rate. Unemployment is inching higher and higher, and is expected, they realistically expect that it will continue to climb. I've handled now 4 or 5 applicants, borrowers, clients of mine, long-time clients who have been made redundant this year, and I think it will continue. Tony Alexander mentioned at the beginning of the pandemic that not everyone that's going to lose their jobs as a result of the pandemic is going to lose it in the first couple of years. Here we are 4 years and counting later, and only really now starting to contend and grapple with the length of this tail. It's it is. The ripples will be felt for a long time yet. But the outtake for me from today's announcement is that the end is in sight. It was thought to be in sight last 6 weeks ago in April, but it really does appear to be visually attainable now. So that's really positive news.
Well, we're coming to a standstill.
We are.
As far as businesses making profit and people who are running a service business, it looks like they're looking to reduce costs, because obviously they're not making the profits that they thought they would make.
That's right.
I guess the people that are going to benefit at the moment, at this particular time, with everything that's going on, are first-time buyers.
Bingo.
Who are renting. And looking at the stats, even though the median and the average have gone up since last year, it's still gradually going up. It's not growing up dramatically. So there's a window of opportunity for first-time buyers who are renting, particularly if they're renting a 3-bedroom and they've got a pet. The reason being that with pet-friendly rentals, you can claim an extra $36 a week for the pet.
That's fascinating.
So for a landlord, they're cashing in on that because they know that if they allow pets, they can get more money.
It's money for jam, isn't it? Yeah.
So if you're living in a 3-bedroom, you got pets, you're probably paying about $7 to $7.50 a week rent. The average property selling is 1.166 roughly. If you were to get a mortgage on that, how much would you be saying?
So if you're borrowing, say, 80-ish% of that, what would the mortgage be? We worked it out earlier, about $1,500,
okay, I think. $1,500 a week.
Yeah.
So, okay, you're paying double what you would pay as rent, but the house prices are going to go up once the interest rates come down.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's a number of things. There's a number of things to that, and it's a very pertinent point. House prices, the value of the property which you are a tenant of, doesn't matter. It can go up. It doesn't matter to you. Whereas the value of the property which you own going up really does matter. If we consider that on average, and again I understand that the last few years have been an exception to the rule, but on average properties double every 10 years. So if we assume therefore that a 1.1-ish million dollar property today is going to increase in value on average by say $110,000 a year, and you're paying about $75,000 a year to own it, the value increase is greater than the cost of ownership, let alone the fact that up until today half of that expense has been dead money paying off someone else's mortgage. This is a real plus. The other factor here is that we are arguably at the tail end of this curve, the peak of this curve, and interest rates by and large, touch wood, should and will be coming down towards the end of 2024. Right now we can borrow say $800,000-900,000 at a cost of $1,500-ish a week at a rate of say 6.9%, being on average what we're getting for a year. Most people fixing their mortgages right now for a year. If in a year's time that rate is only 5.9 or say 4.9 in a couple of years, assuming things get better and stay better, the cost of our mortgage is either going to drop or we'll continue to pay that same $1,500 and simply pay that mortgage off quicker. Save a lot of interest.
It's a win-win, really, isn't it?
Correct. The key outtake here being that for those buying today, right now, it is entirely likely that they will never owe more than they borrow today, certainly against that particular house. That interest rates, at least in the foreseeable future, shouldn't be more than they are today. Ergo, the mortgage repayments for a loan taken out today will be as high as they likely ever will be. So for anyone sitting on the fence going, well, what about the future? You know, we might be able to make ends meet now, but what if? I don't think we should be worried about that. I think the outtake for me is that if we can do it now, we'll be able to do it in the future with a lot more ease.
Yeah, that's interesting. And the interesting fact that came about as well from the stats is that even though about 21% of properties are pet friendly for rental, only about 2% are actually fully fenced.
That's not particularly pet friendly. They say they are, but what if
most people have got cats?
Well, this is true. Yeah, cats know no boundaries. Eh? No, that's very interesting. Yeah. That is interesting. Yeah.
From your perspective, do you think that the banks are doing everything that they can at the moment to reduce the rates, or are they waiting for that OCR to drop?
That's a really good. That's a really good question, and two factors at play here. Number one, yes, we've seen reductions at every mainstream bank to their interest rates for no reason other than their economists are reasonably expecting that the cash rate will come down from its current position. We don't know by how much or when exactly, but they're banking on it happening, so much so that they're prepared to cut their rates ahead of the curve. So what would have happened had the cash rate been cut today is we probably wouldn't have seen a comparable cut across all bank rates. They've already factored some of that in. But certainly, yes, there are some banks looking after first home buyers more than others. And so coming back to this family currently renting in a 3-beddy, considering buying, some of New Zealand's smaller banks which most of us hadn't heard of, places like SBS, Southland Building Society, Heartland Bank, even Unity, who traditionally have only operated in the Bay of Plenty, they've now broadened their catchment to include Auckland. These guys are offering interest rates 70, 80 basis points under those big banks. And so there are some real incentives, these rates being only available to those buying their first home.
Okay, so they're targeting the first-time buyers.
They are not only targeting the first home buyers, but they're rolling out the welcome mat to get them in the door, and I'm all for it. I really, really am. I just hope that the follow-through is there. That at the end of these people's first fixed terms, whether they choose to fix for 6, 12, 18 months or longer, that the bank continues to look after them, because it's unfortunate when a bank again rolls out the red carpet to get you on board, but then the after-sale service sort of falters and falls away.
Yeah. Well, certainly, the construction industry is really slowed down, and I know that a lot of those people that are working in that industry are looking at their options to go to Australia and places like that, where it is actually taking off again over there. And I guess from that perspective, with the number of properties that have come on the market since last year, there's like a 45% increase in the number of listings compared to last year. There's a lot of choice out there.
There really is.
And first-time buyers are actually looking at existing properties more than new builds.
Really?
So again, that's slowing down the construction industry, because if they're not selling them on, they're having to wait until they can sell them before they can go on to their next project.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's important to understand that often these developers, people who are cutting up a large block of land and creating a subdivision upon which these houses can be built, are banking on there being a certain number of pre-sales. And so if some of those pre-sales fall over for one reason or another, and it's not unheard of right now to see standing approvals just expire and then not being renewed. People who were approved to borrow $1 million 6 months ago, wanting to extend that approval, not borrow any more, but just revalidate it, unable to do so, whether that's because of a change in policy or a change in circumstance. Maybe he or she's lost income. I've encountered a number of banks in the last month or so requesting finalised business financial accounts for the financial year ended 31st of March 2024. That is unusual in that normally we don't request this financial year's business accounts until next financial year. That banks are going, let's just make sure that things are still tracking okay, is just a sign that they are being cautious. They're eager to lend because, as you said, there's a lot of stagnant stock out there. People aren't, there's more listings than buyers, so they need to make ends meet. They're eager to lend, but if there's any doubt, they'll they need to quash that.
So what's your recommendation at the moment for somebody who's looking to take out a loan? What sort of period of time do you think they should take it out for?
Yeah, so my advice, my general advice, which I send out to the masses, and I always encourage people to seek personalized advice, but the general advice I reviewed for May, I tightened my recommendations from being anywhere from 6 months to 24 months. This was would have been March I last reviewed it. I'm now suggesting 6, 12 months, 18 months if you have to. But really, the fraternity, the financial fraternity is very, very confident that interest rates will be coming down from now. Certainly in 6, 12 months' time, we will be dealing with lower rates than we are today. Whilst those long 3, 4, 5 year interest rates are lower than the short-term fixed rates, I think it's very, very plausible that we'll see lower rates than even those within the next 6, 12 months.
Okay,
that's my advice.
Yeah. Okay. Have you got any other words of wisdom, Glenn?
Words of wisdom. Only to say that I was intrigued a few nights ago. There was comment that the Australian Reserve Bank may increase its cash rates, which is what we've come to expect from Britain, the States, whose inflationary pressures are not coming down as ours are. Look at our current OCR at 5.5%. It is leagues above everyone else. And it's easy for me to say, well, we shouldn't have increased it as much as we did. But the truth is that it seems to be working and getting us out of a recession quicker than the rest of the world. So I don't like it, but I feel that it is working, and that so long as when we do start to see some movement, some downward movement, we don't all rush out there and buy the latest Mercedes-Benz, looking at you.
Okay.
I think we'll be okay. I think we're through the worst of it. I need to believe that we're through the worst of it now.
Yeah, it's good to know. All right. Thank you, Glenn.
Well, thank you, Mehran. It's always a pleasure.
Absolutely. And if you wanted some advice on home loans, please contact Glenn. His number will be on the screen. And if you need any advice on selling or buying on the shore, contact me, Mehran. Okay. Thank you.
Cheers.